Hey guys, thanks for clicking on the video. Okay, here we go. Now this is episode 7 of season 2 of How to Get Away with Murder. Again, we always open up with a little bit more from what's actually happening in the future. This time we see Wes and Laurel, and Wes has a gun and saying we got to stop them. Then we see Michaela and Connor. They're leaving. It looks like they're leaving the mansion. And there's like a whole little thing with that. And then toward the end, we actually seen the damn DA, her body come flying over the damn Sinclair. Her body come flying over the balcony and hit the ground. And she basically is in between where Michaela and Connor are and where Wes and Laura are, and she comes down and she hits the ground. And when we look up in the balcony where her fucking body fell from, that goddamn Bonnie, I said, I told y'all about that Bonnie. That Bonnie ain't to be trusted. She is a sideways something. But anyway, I don't know what all that means. I don't know what all that is. And I guess we'll find out next week, because next week is the last week before we go into the wintertime finale. So hopefully we're going to figure out what's all going on. But anyway, so Philip Jessup is actually the secret child. That's his name. And of course, we know that Oliver calls himself hacking in on him, but he's actually hacking back on him. So all of that shit's going on. We found that out last week. Okay, so Nate ends up being served with papers in literally a murder trial for the wife about these pills that she took that actually ended up ending her life. We look up and Nate has actually gotten in touch with Eve to actually represent him for the court case. Annalise didn't know it until she actually heard about Nate being put on trial for the murder of the wife, and she goes over to Nate's apartment and runs into Eve, and she's like, what the hell is really going on? So that's that. So Eve is going to take care of it. Of course, they throughout the episodes professing their love to each other, them and their lesbian love affair that nobody supposedly knows about, but Nathan pretty much, I think, picked up on it. So we got all that going on. Bonnie is basically running around pissed off with Asher because of the fact that he's involved with a whole situation that has to do with the gang rape and all of that. And more so, like he said, he wasn't involved with the rape, but he was involved with the fact that he didn't tell anything, and Asher's father covered everything up. So that's what that's all about. Bonnie's pissed off with Asher. Asher begs her forgiveness. She kind of forgives him, throughout the episode, but not really. She's still pissed off with him. Then we had a run-in with Annalise and Sinclair. Had a run-in. Sinclair still fucking around with the bullshit. Now with the Nate situation. And Annalise went and ran up on her and told her, you know what? You are messing with the wrong bitch. And that's what she said. Didn't I tell you to leave me alone? Do I need to go see your boss again? And she gonna say, my boss told me to leave you alone. She didn't say, he didn't say for me to leave Nate alone. She told her, you messing with the wrong bitch. So, she's just a mess. She's a hot mess. That's Sinclair. She needs to go somewhere and sit herself on down. But anyway, Frank goes and actually enlists Oliver to come in to help with the whole Philip Jessup situation and some of the investigation stuff. Connor is completely against it from the door. He just thinks it's dangerous, and he just does not want Oliver involved. But Oliver's like gung-ho into the bullshit. He ends up going on a gay app and sets up a date, actually, was what he did, with Connor. He used Connor's picture to set up a date with Philip Jessup to meet up at some coffee shop and all of that. So we're already thinking that the boy's possibly a killer and that kind of thing. So it just is a mess. Connor's not feeling any of this. And Frank's like, everything's going to be fine. We're going to watch it. We're going to stake it out and this, that, thing, and the other. So that's just like a whole big mess. So while we're in court with Nate, the nurse, there was a nurse that was really, really close. Like she had gotten close with Nate and his wife and all of that. And she kind of spoke out of turn in court. And then Eve didn't try to, they were losing. They were losing the case. They were basically losing the case. Things just wasn't looking right. And they wanted to, because they wanted to test Nate's wife's blood for the pills, the pills and all that. And once that's done, that's all going to link back to Annalise and Nate, and it's all going to be a fucking mess. So, the nurse was like, she spoke out of turn, and because she got all caught up in her feelings, and she's like, I mean, I don't know why everybody's so after him, and even if he did do it, she's saying that he didn't, but even if he did do it, couldn't you understand that his wife was suffering, blah, 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 and they're like, oh, God, bitch, why don't you shut up? So that was a part. That was a problem. And, of course, you know, the other attorney was like, this is gold. So Eve didn't cross-examine her. So they're basically like, okay, they're going to test the blood. They're going to do a blood sample and test her and everything. So we knew everything's going to go to shit. So Annalise then went to see Eve because she thinking Eve threw the case because she could get rid of Nate, because she's jealous of the fact that Annalise is messing with Nate and all of that, and she really wants them to be together. So she thought that Eve had thrown the case just to be funny, and I did too. I was like, oh, she's, because, you know, they real deep with their little lesbian shit they got going on. So that's what I thought she did. She told her, and then she said to her, she said, no, I did not cross-examine the nurse because I need her on my side. And if you want to keep her on your side, then you don't misuse your witness. And she said, I got this, just leave it alone. So she's like, all right, well, I'm going to trust you, because Annalise actually sent that meddlesome ass goddamn Wes down there to watch over the case, because naturally she couldn't go into court. And Eve picked up on it and drew some suspicion to. It drew suspicion to Wes. She had asked Annalise, why are you always trying to protect him, this, that, and the other? And that's when Eve said to her, she said, what's so special about him? And Annalise said, it's him. So again, now we're out there again. I don't know what the fuck this is. Is Annalise Wes's mother? You know, because his mother committed suicide, but was that actually his adopted mother? I don't know. Eve knows whatever it is about Wes, and Annalise knows whatever it is about Wes, and why she knows all of his background. I believe she's some kind of relation to the little meddlesome ass bastard, but whatever. So we got all that going on. All right, so got all that going on. I might as well just finish that up, and then I'll talk about the case that Annalise worked on this time. They go back in the court to get the verdict about Nate. Nate beat the case because when they did the blood sample actually got doctored. That's what Eve meant by keep the nurse on your side, because she had gone to see the nurse. The nurse doctored the blood sample, and it came up with none of the drug that was being accused being in her system, and that she died of natural causes. That's what she meant by just leave it alone and don't ever turn your witness against you by mistreating them and carrying on and accusing them of things. So, you know, they're always breaking the rules to win, but they won. So Nate's off the hook, Annalise is off the hook. That's all cleared up. Okay, so let's go on to the case that Annalise was working on. There's Marco Tidwell, who was actually the new husband. He literally committed suicide. He jumped off of a building. He was being victimized supposedly by victimized and harassed by a client, by Dale. Dale is actually the ex-husband of Mrs. Tidwell, okay? Mrs. Tidwell, as she was saying, you know, I was in love with him. I used to be married to Dale. Dale's harassing us, and he harassed him until he drove the man to suicide. That's what they were trying to do. Dale is just eccentric and rich and stupid, and he's still in love with Mrs. Tidwell. And Annalise kept telling him, this woman does not love you, you fool. She's trying to throw you in jail. And he's like, no, 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 she loves me, this, that, and the other. So just, he's stupid, you know, stupid in love. The wife ends up being she's after giving her testimony and perjured herself. She actually had drinking problems, and Annalise got her, and she perjured herself. They go back and forth, and then her attorney pulls out a whole thing and pulls out the 911 call to prove that the man had been being harassed. They played back the 911 call. He kept saying he this and he that, and he's bothering me, and he this, he that, he that, blah. So they're like, okay, so he's talking about Dale. So everything's looking real bleak and looking wrong. Annalise puts her special 5 on it, less West, so it was 4 of them. Laurel, Michaela, Connor, and Asher were working on it. Annalise and Laurel had some words. Laurel told Annalise, I think you don't like me, and I think it's because I'm fucking frank, and you're mad, and it's just stupid, and you need to stop mistreating me. What is the problem? And Annalise said, no, it's actually the opposite, and you're stupid, and get out of my face and stop sounding so needy. I don't have to tell you you're doing a good job. When I don't say anything to you at all, that means that you don't need any guidance and you don't need any leading, which means you're doing good. Now get your ass out of my face and stop being so goddamn needy and do your job. So that was that. So Laurel ends up getting her head straight, because I always told y'all that Laurel was the baddest one really on that team. She just don't know it. But she ended up getting that little feeling something wasn't right. Laurel goes and does what Laurel has to do, and she finds out that the wife, Mrs. Tidwell, is actually sleeping with the goddamn DA. Okay? And the he that that the man was talking about in the tape that was harassing him, it wasn't Dale. It was actually the damn DA. And they were literally framing Dale. The wife and the DA were trying to frame Dale. Laurel went she went and found out at the DA's apartment complex, the security guard was sweet on Laurel, as she lured him down to the courthouse and got him, and they were in there, and he had to testify as to things that he had seen, and this, that, thing, and the other, and visits that the DA was visiting Mrs. Tidwell, and Mrs. Tidwell was visiting him, and all of this kind of carrying on. So everything got dropped out. Dale was exonerated from everything, and the damn DA pleaded the fifth. Because he couldn't, you know, testify against himself and make himself look bad. So they threw everything else out. But that was that. So naturally, Annalise won, as usual. Okay, so last thing. Oliver ends up getting the date all set up. Laurel didn't like that either. Laurel said, this is dangerous, and I think this is going to go bad, because in her gut, she feels like Philip Jessup actually is the murderer, or has something to do with the murder of his mother. So she called Annalise and told. Annalise called Frank and told him, get Connor out of there right now and cut that whole little operation they got going. Get him out of there. She didn't appreciate it, and she cussed Frank's ass out. He talking about, it's going to be okay. She said, you get his ass out of there now. So they get him out. But what happened in the meantime, between time, remember, Philip Jessup has actually been watching them just like he's watching him. And so he's actually seeing through the damn computer that stupid ass Oliver took right on down. He's been watching everything. And he goes home. Oliver's actually at home. And you see Connor text him and let him know that he'll be home in an hour. And Oliver's coming in from the grocery store, and he done been followed home by, wouldn't you know it, Philip Jessup. Philip Jessup was never going to see Connor. He went to go get that motherfucking Oliver. And when Oliver turned around, baby, he was in the apartment with him. He done dropped the milk and spilled milk all over the goddamn floor. And that's where it actually ended. So now we don't know what's getting ready to go on, but it's getting ready to be some shit. So we know Connor will be home within an hour, but I think Oliver's ass is going to be sushi whenever he gets there. All that old dumbass shit. You so goddamn smart that it done turn around and is ready to bite you in the ass. But whatever. So that's where it actually ended. I said, oh, that's a hot ass mess. I love that damn show. All right, so that's it, y'all. Thumbs up, thumbs down. You know how all that works. And I will see you guys next week. We are getting real close to this little winter finale. And I think shit's going to get really, really good next week. So, all right. I will talk to y'all next Thursday. Bye, guys.